My name is Casey. Welcome to the iHeart Latin channel, lesson number 11, where we are going to talk about personal pronouns and direct reflexives. So let's jump right in. What is a pronoun? A pronoun is a word that replaces a noun in order to avoid a repetition. So for instance, I wouldn't say Joe went to the store and then Joe's mom gave Joe a hug and then Joe went shopping for Joe. I would say Joe went to the store and then he gave his mom a hug and then he went shopping for himself. So pronouns are littered all through those couple of sentences there. And the same is true for Latin. So we use pronouns like that in English. They're used the same way in Latin. There are first-person pronouns, second-person pronouns, and third-person pronouns. So what do we mean by that? First-person pronouns are referring to the speaker. So I, me, we, or us. Second-person pronouns are referring to the person spoken to. So you, either singular or plural. Third-person pronouns are the person spoken about. So he, him, her, she, it's, them, they, pronouns like that. So you'll see on the board here I have a list of pronouns. These are the first-person pronouns. So these are the first-person singular pronouns here. Ego, mei, mihi, me. First-person plural, nos, nostri, nobis, nos nobis. These are the second-person pronouns. So second-person singular, tu, tui, tibi, te. Second-person plural, vos, vestri, vobis, vos, vobis. We'll get to the third-person pronouns in just a minute, but let's practice for a second. So pronouns are like nouns in that they are declined based on the role that they're playing in the sentence. You can see by looking at these words up here, they all have different endings, and you just have to memorize them. Unfortunately, they don't follow a pattern like any of the nouns do, so you'll just need to commit these to memory. But they behave like nouns in that once we identify what role the word is playing in the sentence, we can just plug the correct form of that word in. So let's look at the sentences I have here up on the board. Caesar warns me. So if we want to put the correct form of this pronoun here into this sentence, we need to identify what role these words are playing in the sentence first. So let's start by finding our subject. Who or what is this sentence about? It's about Caesar. So Caesar is my nominative. Caesar is singular and he is masculine. And is he first, second, or third person? Well, he's a he, so that would be third person. So third person singular, I have a third person singular subject. What is Caesar doing or being? He's warning. So here's my verb. If I have a third person singular subject, I need to use third person singular personal endings for my verb because they need to agree. The verb needs to agree with the subject in number and in person. What tense is this verb? Is this happening right now? Was it happening in the past but sort of ongoing? Will it happen in the future? So is it present tense, imperfect tense, or future tense? Well, it's happening right now, so this is a present tense verb. And then my last word here, can I answer the question, Caesar warns who or what? Yes, he warns me. That means the word me is in the accusative case. Is it singular or plural? Well, it's singular. So if I want to plug the correct pronoun into this sentence, I will start with the subject. Remember that Latin generally goes subject, object, verb. So I would say Caesar. That is my nominative singular masculine ending for Caesar, Caesaris. Next comes my accusative, so next comes my direct object. And I have an accusative singular pronoun here, so I'm just going to come over here, my singular first person accusative pronoun, so it would be me. And then a present tense third person singular form of the verb warn. So my verb for warn is moneo, monere, menui, monitus. So I find the stem, which is M-O-N. I add my conjugating vowel, which is an E. And then I use a third person singular personal ending, which is the T. So it would be Caesar me monet. Now, if I look at this sentence here, part of you loves glory. So again, let's just determine what roles these words are playing in the sentence. Who or what is this sentence about? Part. So here's my subject, my nominative. Is it singular or plural? It's singular. Is it masculine, feminine, or neuter? Well, I know that the word part belongs to the third declension, follows the Socks rule, pars partus, so that is feminine. And is this first, second, or third person? Well, it's a he, she, or an it, right? It's an it, so it is third person. So we've we've determined that our subject is a third person singular subject. So let's try to find our verb. So part is doing or being what? It is loving. So here's my verb. We've determined that we're going to use third person singular personal endings, because remember that your verb has to agree with the subject and number and person. And I'm going to look at this verb here and I'm going to ask myself, is it present, imperfect, or future tense? Is it happening right now, in the past with kind of an ongoing action, or is it going to happen in the future? It's happening in the present. So I will need a present form of this verb. And then can I answer the question, part loves who or what? Yes, part loves Glory. So Glory is my accusative, my direct object. It is singular. I know the word for glory belongs to the first declension because I've memorized all this. Gloria, gloriae, and that is feminine. And then let's think about these words here, of you. So remember that Latin kind of has a special of case. There's no such thing as the apostrophe S in Latin. So immediately when you see the word of, at least right now, let's think, is this my of case? Is this my genitive? Is this kind of showing possession? And it is indeed. So we're going to put this in the genitive because it's showing possession. Whose part? It's answering the question whose. Is it singular or plural? This you happens to be singular. It's tough in English, we don't distinguish between the singular and the plural you, but in other languages they do. So sometimes it can be a little tough to tell, but we'll just say this is the singular you. And as far as the gender goes, is it masculine, feminine, or neuter? Well, with first and second person pronouns, the gender is actually kind of indistinguishable, so we don't really need to worry about the gender too much for a first or second person personal pronoun. All right, so let's put this all together. So what is my nominative singular feminine ending for part? It would be pars. And then next will come my genitive, my of you. So I'm just going to plug in a genitive singular, second person. So this is the second person form of the word you. So here's my genitive, here's my singular up here, and my second person. So it would be to e. And then remember the verb comes last. So we'll do the accusative, the direct object next. So an accusative singular feminine first declension ending for gloria, gloriae would be gloriam. And then I need a present tense, third person singular version of the word love. So I know the word for love is amo, amare, amavi, amatus. I know that it belongs to the first conjugation because I've memorized that. So I will find the stem by dropping in my mind the are of the second principal part. So the stem is am. I know it's first conjugation, so I'm going to put in that conjugating vowel, which is an a. And then I need a present tense, third person singular ending. So I'm thinking in my mind, ost, mustisnt. So third person singular, it would be a t. And that's what that sentence would look like. Pars tui gloriam amat. So we've discussed pronouns of the first and second person. And again, you just have to memorize these forms. They're irregular, so there's kind of no shortcut to doing that. Just memorize them. Let's talk about pronouns of the third person. These are kind of the toughest in my opinion because they also don't follow a regular pattern like nouns would. Pronouns of the third person, he, she, it. So these are all my forms for he, she, it. So you see the masculine column here. So this would be all the ways that I would plug in he, him, his. These are all the ways I could plug in feminine pronouns, her, she, and this would be the way that I plug in a neuter pronoun, so it. And you can see as you look in the singular, so this top part here, there isn't any regular pattern that emerges, which is kind of a bummer. So again, you're going to have to memorize all of these forms in the singular. However, if you look down here in the plural, you'll see that the masculine does follow the pattern for the second declension. So in the plural, remember second declension plural endings are e, orum, is, os, is. So look, you see e, orum, is, os, is. So that's nice. You already know those endings of the second declension. And likewise, the feminine plural personal pronoun endings of the third person follow the pattern of first declension feminine endings. So I, autumn, is, as, is. So that's kind of nice too. And likewise, the neuter follow the pattern of second declension neuter endings. So a, autumn, is, a, is. So you do have a little bit of work already done for you if you've memorized your declension endings. So just remember that in the plural, at least, the is, a, id, third person personal pronouns follow the pattern of the first and second declension. Only in the plural though, not in the singular. One note about personal pronouns in Latin. You've learned that Latin is inflected, and you can tell by looking at the ending of the verb who is performing the action. So while you don't technically need to add a personal pronoun in the nominative case, oftentimes you'll see that they do for emphasis. Here's an example. If I wanted to say I love you, the first sentence you'll see there is a personal pronoun for I, the nominative, ego te amo. In the second one, you'll see there's no personal pronoun in the nominative, so there's no ego, just te amo. Both mean I love you. But the first sentence, there's more emphasis. It means I love you. Make sense to everybody? Okay, moving on. So let's look at this sentence. Let's try to plug in the appropriate forms of third person personal pronouns. Okay, where is my subject? Who is this sentence about? It's about he. So here's my nominative. It is singular and it is masculine. And what's being said about him? He was giving. What is he doing or being? He's giving. So here's my verb. Is he first, second, or third person? As third person, so I've determined that that's a third person singular subject. So I'm going to use third person singular personal endings for my verb form here. Was giving, is that present tense? Is it imperfect or is it future? Well, was giving, it's happening in the past, and as far as we know, he's still giving them grace. So this is the imperfect tense. And can I answer the question, he gives who or what? He's giving what? He's giving grace. So here's my accusative. It is singular, and I know that my word for grace is feminine because it belongs to the first declension. And then I've got one more word here. Let's see if I have an indirect object. Can I answer the question, he was giving grace to who? Yes, he's giving grace to them. And so this is the dative case, the indirect object. It's plural. We're talking about more than one person. And if you look over here, you can see in the plural, sometimes the forms are the same for the masculine and feminine. It happens to be the same here for the masculine and the feminine, the dative plural. However, I always say, when in doubt, go with masculine. So we're going to go ahead and go with masculine because we're going to assume there's, a couple of men in the group. All right, so let's put this all together. He was giving them grace. So I'm going to start out with my nominative singular masculine word for he, which would be over here. So nominative singular, the masculine is. My verb's going to come last, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. My indirect object will come next. So a dative plural masculine version of them would be, down here's my plural, here's my dative, eis. And then what is he giving them? Grace. My accusative is going to come next. An accusative singular feminine ending for the word gratia, gratiae would be gratiam. And then finally I come to my verb. I need a third person singular imperfect form to put on the end of my stem. So the word for giving is do, dare, dedi, datus. And I can tell by looking at this ends in are. This belongs to the first conjugation. So I'm going to drop the are, which gives me my stem of just d. I'll put in my conjugating vowel, which is an a. And then I need a third person singular imperfect ending. So if I run through my imperfect endings, bombas bat, bamus batis bot, third person singular would be bot. So that sentence would look like is, eis, gratiam, dabat. Okay, let's talk about direct reflexive pronouns. So if I look at this sentence here, I pray for myself. The word myself is referring back to I. It's referring back to the subject. So any pronoun that refers back to the subject of its own clause is called a direct reflexive. Fortunately, you have already learned the direct reflexives for the first and second person. They're exactly the same as the personal pronoun. So if you need to use a direct reflexive in the first or the second person, you're just going to use one of these same words. So if I was going to translate this sentence, I pray for myself, I would start by finding the subject. Where is my nominative? Who's the sentence about? It's about I. This is singular, first person. And what is I doing or being? I is praying. There's my verb. It is present tense. I'm going to use first person singular personal endings for that verb. And I pray for. So this is a preposition. I know that because I've memorized my list of prepositions. And the word myself is a pronoun that is referring back to the subject. So I'm going to pick a word from this list here. So it's singular. I'm going to pick one of these versions here, or these forms here. And what case is this? Well, I know because I've memorized that the word for in Latin is pro. It takes the ablative. So I will put this in the ablative case. It is singular and it is first person. So if I'm going to translate this sentence, remember that I can lump these two words into one. In the first and second person, I don't need to put an additional pronoun. It's implied in the ending of the verb. So I'll start with my prepositional phrase, the word pro, and then myself, I need an ablative or ablative first person singular version or form of this word, myself. So that would be me. And then I pray a present tense first person singular ending for oro, orare, oravi, oratus is just oro. Oops. And so that's what that would look like. Pro, me, oro. However, if we're talking about direct reflexives in the third person, so this sentence here, they fight for themselves. We've got a third person plural subject here. This is my nominative. They fight, so what are they doing? Are they being? They're fighting. Here's my verb. It is present tense. I've established that I've got a third person plural subject. They need to agree. Again, I have a preposition here because I've memorized that. And I know that this particular preposition takes the ablative, so I will put the object of the preposition in the ablative case. This is plural. So this word, themselves, is referring back to the subject of this particular clause. And in this case, I have to use something different. I can't use a form of is, ea, or id. With the first and second person pronouns, I can use these as direct reflexives, but in the third person, I need to use a different form. So not a form of is, ea, or id. I need to use a form of sui, sibi, say, or say, or say. And these can be used singularly or in the plural. And if you look up here on the list, there's no nominative. So a direct reflexive is a word with the word self in it, a pronoun with the word self in it. So myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, themselves. You wouldn't say myself went to the store or herself bought a car. That's why there's no nominative. We don't use reflexives as the subject. You would use a different form, a different pronoun. But you would use them in other cases. So the genitive is sui, the dative is sibi, accusative say or say, ablative say or say. And you can use say or say interchangeably. It doesn't matter. It means the same thing. Okay, so let's put this all together. They fight for themselves. So again, I can wrap these two words into one because it is implied in the ending of the verb. I don't need an additional third person pronoun there. So I'm going to start again with my prepositional phrase. So pro, I can say the ablative, the singular and the plural are the same. So the ablative version would be say or say. It doesn't matter which one I pick. So I'll say pro se, and then they fight. My word for fight is pugno, pugnare, pugnavi, pugnatus. That is a first conjugation verb. I'm going to drop the are. in the second principal part to get my stem, which is P-U-G-N. I know it's a first conjugation verb, so I'm going to add my conjugating vowel in there, which is an A. And then they fight, my personal signs. This is present tense, so a third person, present tense, personal sign, O-S-T, must N-T. And that's how that would look. Pro se pugnat. Okay, we covered a lot of material today. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section. I will try to get back to you. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. You can also hit the bell if you want to be notified when there's a new episode. Thank you for watching. Keep studying Latin. Latte.